Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm thrilled to be here for a number of reasons. I've known Armando more years than I care to admit. We both started in the business about the same time. We won't say what year.
About 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago. And David, it's a pleasure. We've spoken before. It's great to meet you in person.
Great to be in the south of France.
Yes. I'm not just saying this because I'm speaking to you, but I love Showtime.
Thank you.
My DVR will probably explode from having watched so much Showtime stuff, and now is recording so much this week that I'm gone. It's Showtime's slate of originals has been garnering critical acclaim, nominations, awards. What has been the strategy behind, arriving at such an impressive slate?
Well, the decision was made. I've been at Showtime now for 5 years, more or less. The decision was made before I got there to start really pushing a lot of resources towards original programming. And so we feel like our future is about owned original content. And the strategy programming-wise is we want to have the best, most cutting edge, most progressive, adult, premium comedies and dramas anywhere. So I think right now has been a very good time at Showtime, and there's really nobody in the American market who has the depth and breadth of shows that we have right now. But strategy is about original proprietary content that we can then monetize around the world. That's where my friend comes in.
Yeah, and exactly, friend. What demand are you seeing internationally for premium content?
You take everything that David just said about the creation of that type of content, and then you combine it with the timing and the evolution of where this business is, and the proliferation of digital platforms, SVOD services, US-based SVOD services that are now going global, local SVOD services that are starting in each country, SVOD services that are extensions of traditional platforms, whether linear or digital. There is a super demand for high-end premium content. And it's the type of content that we do at Showtime that not only drives viewership, but drives subscribers. And it's marketable, it's promotable, and there's not much of it in the world. There's a lot of content. We walked the floor a little bit today, and there's tons of programming from all over the world. There's a lot of programming from the United States.
I was particularly impressed by some of the circus programming I saw.
He wanted to go buy a couple things.
What would I buy if I just had a little extra pocket change?
But there's not a huge supply of the type of programming that David produces over at Showtime. And then you add to that the mix that obviously HBO does some great shows, but HBO has their global strategy. Netflix is doing great shows as well, obviously, and they have their global strategy. We are, and that's why we're embarking on this strategy of trying to expand not only just Showtime programming, but the Showtime brand and portfolio around the world.
Now, many of you may not know that before joining Showtime, David shepherded some of the most successful, highest rated, most critically acclaimed shows on broadcast television. And just to name a few: ER, The West Wing, 24, Friday Night Lights, Arrested Development. So my question is, now in your position at Showtime, when you look for shows and you hear for pitches, what do you look for that is different from those shows, from those other shows that you did in broadcast?
Well, I spent the last 10 years before I came to Showtime as a producer, and I was mostly producing in the network environment, and I produced shows like 24 and Friday Night Lights and Parenthood. And a lot of the shows that I produced sort of pushed against the limits of what you can get away with in broadcast, pushed against the limits of the medium. 24 was the one show that broke through and became a big hit. Arrested Development, Friday Night Lights, to a certain extent even Parenthood, never broke through to mass success. But they were always very addictive shows that always did very well in selling DVDs and did very well in aftermarkets, and certainly Arrested Development and Friday Night Lights have had life beyond their original run on NBC and Fox. I'm now at a place where I get to program to my own tastes, or my tastes line up very well with our audience, let's put it that way. And we are able to monetize, because we're a subscription service, not ad supported, that passionate fan base. You make addictive television. It may not be appealing to everybody, but people will pay money, pay a check every month for it to get Ray Donovan, to get The Affair, to get Homeland. And that's now become, I think, in some ways, a very hot part of the market. And as Armando is saying now, as SVOD services are waking up, as the traditional premium television in each market is now having to compete against the SVOD services, there's demand for that kind of addictive programming because it sells subscriptions better than anything. And so that, you know, being as the guy who made shows that sold a lot of DVDs and not a ton of ratings, I'm now in the sweet spot, and in the right place at Showtime.
Armando, a lot of Showtime's shows are addictive in large part because they're serialized. You can't just watch one episode. We binge, we watch in whatever way we want. I hear...
Did you see the Ray Donovan finale?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
There's two groups of people here that have either seen it and want to talk about it, or don't say anything about it.
Right.
I haven't seen it yet.
Right. But so these shows are serialized, and I hear from international broadcasters, and you must hear it so much more, they like procedurals. Now, you're in the beautiful position that you can offer them both.
Yes.
But how do you place the serialized shows?
Look, the wonderful thing about the world we live in today is that there's basically a platform almost for every genre of content. And the procedurals that CBS is best known for, and CBS probably has one of the greatest legacies of procedural shows and we just now added to our list of, again, it's only 2 weeks, but Limitless. Fantastic, fantastic start. You know, those are broad, mass appeal shows that, you know, the bigger platforms, the bigger broadcasters, the more traditional terrestrial broadcasters are always looking for. And we historically have always had plenty of those type of shows. The more premium shows that are on Showtime, or even shows like Zoo or Under the Dome, have some potential on those platforms, but for the most part, they thrive extremely well in a premium environment, whether linear or digital. Whether you watch them and you're hooked, as David was talking about you know, addictive television, episode to episode, week to week, or watching it on a binge basis and, you know, watching Ray Donovan as if it was a long movie. And that's what a lot of these premium series have become in some ways, long movies that you can just feed off of.
Right, right. So talking about addictive television, bring us behind the scenes a little bit. So how is it that you balance, because you attract great talent, and you can name some names now, but how do you take a terrific...
Is the name-dropping portion.
It's a name-dropping portion. How do you take a great showrunner and give him or her the space they need to pursue their vision and still craft a show that fits your requirements?
Well, the great thing is that I'm not trying to make their show fit some abstract definition of what Showtime is. I want Showtime to be, I want it to be cutting edge. I want to have the next new thing. I want to make television for adults. But I'm not trying to make any one showrunner fit in. So, and honest, probably, I've been a producer. I approach the world still like a producer. So I actually engage really intensely with the showrunners and the actors, for that matter, of our shows. I'm not, here's the money, go make a show. More often than not, it's a daily interaction with Sarah Treem, who does The Affair, or Michelle Ashford, who does Masters of Sex, or David Hollander, who's now doing Ray Donovan. And I don't know. I have a lot of opinions and ideas. I read every script. I read every story outline. I watch every cut. But I see my job as to sort of get the best out of whoever I'm working with, and everybody has a very different style. What Sarah Treem needs and wants is very different from what Alex Gonza, who runs Homeland,
right.
needs or wants. And so, and the tie goes to them. When there's a creative dispute, I think you're making a mistake here. I will tell it to your face, but if it's core to what you believe and it's core to how you see the show going, I don't expect to win. It's not about winning. So, I mean, it's really a daily thing. And then actors are a whole different thing. You know, a lot of people, the lead actors of our show, the Liev Schreibers, Dominic West and Ruth Wilson, Claire Danes, these are powerful, intelligent people, and they have an awful lot of responsibility. Don Cheadle. And so I treat them in a lot of the same ways I treat the showrunners, and give them a lot of responsibility, and they have a big say in the steering of the show.
I say this in a good way, but some of them are kind of scary smart, aren't they?
Yeah, I always say that if there was there used to be a show called Battle of the Network Stars in the 70s, which I watched when I was a kid. And I always said if there was a Battle of the Network Stars College Bowl style, we would win everybody. We definitely have the highest IQ actors in all of American television.
Armando, there is. Are you seeing a greater demand internationally for scripted product now than, say, a few years ago?
I thought you were going to ask me to name drop.
Please name drop. Yeah, you go right ahead.
No, he has the cool job. What was the question? Is there more what?
Is there more demand now for really great scripted product than you've seen in the past?
Oh, come on, Anna. What do you think I'm going to say?
That's a softball.
What do you think I'm going to say?
Toss it up there. Come on.
Nah, nobody. You know, we have no friends around the world.
Nah,
no. Are you kidding me? This is a great time to be in this business. It's a great time to be in the premium content business. There are challenges, but there are more opportunities than challenges. And as long as, and you know, we talk about this often, you know, we're fortunate to have Leslie Moonves as the CEO of our company, because he focuses every division that's focused on the content creation just to make the very best content possible. And then the good business opportunities will follow. And this is, again, a great time to have fantastic content.
Speaking of great opportunities, tell us what happened in Canada and the Showtime deal with Bell Media. How is that different?
You know, it was an interesting situation of a number of different events, but it really is an example of kind of the evolution of deal making, at least in Canada and potentially in the rest of the world, where we had legacy linear pay TV channels, channel deals that were expiring. And Netflix had been in Canada already for a number of years. And there were two competitive Canadian services that were starting up about the similar time frame. And it was the evolution of the traditional linear deal with, that was more driven by the digital demands and SVOD demands than really the legacy linear issues. And it was our first deal that, again, our team, my sales team, has done historically a fantastic job of monetizing the Showtime content, but we've been selling shows on an individual basis. And this was the first deal where we really have entered into, you know, a portfolio deal, not only for the portfolio of Showtime content, but certain aspects of Showtime branding.
Here's the thing. Showtime, you know, all of our shows have tended to be in different places in each territory. And I think the brand strength of Showtime in the US has been sort of at an all-time high. It's been rising very rapidly. It's been very sort of insurgent. Canada, being just over the border, was the first place where there was very high awareness of Showtime, and it was very valuable to Bell to be able to launch their SVOD service called Crave, saying, we are the home of Showtime, and that had value. And so we were able to finally put the pieces together. It's always been a frustration of mine that what do Ray Donovan and The Affair and Penny Dreadful and Billions, which we're going to start in January, what do those shows have to do with each other? They're not individual, they're all from a curated service. So I think it's really important in the next phase of our growth. HBO has done a great job of this, but next phase of our growth is put those shows together and make Showtime start to mean something around the world in the same way that it means in North America. And certainly in the English-speaking world, I think that's starting to happen, and you're seeing it sort of spread out, that those shows are each individual strong brands, but they come together into a larger brand. Billions has been interesting. Armando showed the pilot back in May screenings, and it screened very well. There was a lot of interest, and so he kept saying, like, people want to see the second episode, people want to see the second episode. And he came to me, I don't know, 6 weeks ago and said, can we show the second episode at MIPCOM? And I guess he'd never done a screening here, so we had this room at 8:30 this morning and had a pretty packed room to watch the second episode, and it does have that feeling of it's highly entertaining. I think it's deep and subtle in its language and its psychology, but it's entertaining and it's highly relevant, I think, to the world that we live in. It's so much about class and our complicated feelings about money and what's fair and what's not fair, and the ultra rich, and I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting show.
Set it up briefly,
I'll set it up, and that's the setup. It's Paul Giamatti, Damian Lewis, two very powerful male actors who are playing incredibly powerful characters. Damian, who's an old friend from Homeland, was not intending to go back to television, and frankly, I didn't really want to go back to Damian again quite so soon. It seemed like a little bit of a failure of imagination. So he was like so perfect for it. Knowing Damian, I gave him the script, and he's like, I don't want to do a show for you again. And I was like, I don't really want you to do a show for me again. But we both knew inevitably, like I knew when he read the script that he was going to want to do it, and he's fantastic. And Giamatti's got a whole different energy, but you got two really smart, really powerful guys. And Giamatti plays U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, partly based on Preet Bharata, partly based on Elliot Spitzer, a lot of those guys. And Damian is a sort of a preeminent hedge fund guy, and Giamatti's determined to bring him down. So we should play that.
Yeah, we
clip.
have a clip.
It's like a 1 or 2 minute clip.
Now?
What we do has consequences, intended and unintended. The decisions we make, the actions we bring, have weight. Come to work every day and be just and strong in the actions you bring, and don't waver.
When did it become a crime to succeed in this country? Everyone has access to the information. We just know how to analyze it better.
We spotted a suspect trading pattern.
You must get pings like that every day.
All three firms have links to Bobby Axelrod.
Play hard, play clean. Be careful out there.
What'd you take down last year?
7.2 million.
Your value to the firm is absolute.
7.2 million. Feel that.
Trust her? I want to.
I'm the goddamn U.S. attorney, Wendy.
Are we teaching them that daddy's job is always more important than mommy's? Quit your fucking job.
It's a crush the other guy business. It's like Highlander. There can be only one.
In Inwood growing up, if someone has a problem with you and they take that beef public, the ground just falls out from beneath them.
Are you threatening me?
You're fucking right, I am.
A good matador doesn't kill a fresh bull. You wait until he's been stuck a few times.
The moment I let someone in a government office tell me what I can or cannot buy, I may as well close the shop, but I'm not closing the shop.
You wouldn't know the right thing to do if it kneeled down and sucked your tiny goddamn cock!
I should. But then again, what's the point of having fuck you money if you never say fuck you?
Wow. Okay, definitely addictive. I can't wait to see it. And I don't quite know how I'll see it, if I'll wait week to week or if I'll wait for a few to stack up and then binge them.
Your choice.
But, so what are you two learning about how people are watching different types of shows? Television still, the linear still the entry point? SVOD doesn't matter even.
I mean, I'll answer from my point. I'm in the middle of it right now in the US. We began selling subscriptions over the internet exactly 12 weeks ago now. So we are behind what some people in other markets are. I look at what Sky does in the UK with a bit of jealousy, and then I just feel like they're a few years ahead of us. But it's been really interesting. I'm now, I just now have a much more direct relationship. I know exactly what episodes were watched last night. I know what was dominant. I can see all the viewing patterns. I can see the sales patterns. I can see, what different platforms are selling us, who's converting better. I mean, there's all sorts of learnings that I find fascinating that I'm sure the people who work at Netflix and Amazon, they know instinctively at this point because they've been doing it for a few years, but it's a revolution to our business. Our base business has never been stronger in the US, but I think a lot of our growth in the coming years is going to come through the broadband-only homes.
So he's got to worry about one market.
You have to worry about how many?
We have to kind of try to figure this out from a global perspective. And no two markets are exactly alike. There's an evolution that's taking place, but in different ways, in different regions. And it's incumbent upon us as a distribution organization to try to stay on top of it as much as we can. Try to do what we need to do to both monetize our content and to make our programming successful. Mm-hmm. We want our content to be popular around the world, not just sell it and forget about it, because eventually that content comes back to us and we license it, and we've talked about this before. An important aspect of what we do is selling our library over and over and over again. So it's an incredible time in the business, but there's no specific formula on a territory by territory basis.
I mean, I have to say, being at this market is there's a lot of learning for me to do, because in the course of the last 48 hours, get to talk about what is Sky doing in the UK, what is Sky New Zealand doing, what is Stan doing in Australia, and they're all at various points along the continuum of new ways to distribute, new ways to relate to your customer base, and so I've spent a lot of time the last 48 hours picking people's brains about what's happening.
We've kept them busy. So David was kind enough, we talked about it, and he went over to Edinburgh and was a keynote speaker there. So I waited for him to come back from Edinburgh and said, I think it's a good idea if you come to MIPCOM. And it's always great when we have our colleagues, and David's a very close colleague, and it's beneficial both ways.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you to hear what's going on out in the world.
There's a lot to learn about how other platforms are doing
it.
So
you help wave the Showtime flag.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time because there was one more question. So in 2 words or 5 words, you have great shows, both of you, in different ways.
Many of which are shared.
Many are shared. What's the key to making sure they get sampled? There's so much stuff out there. How do you make sure that that people find out about these great shows?
We're blessed with two pretty dominant platforms. I mean, Showtime in the U.S., CBS in the U.S. in particular, are strong enough that CBS puts something good on the air, it's going to get noticed. They have enough mass and enough marketing resources to make it get noticed. And Showtime, while we're not nearly as mass and don't have the heft of CBS, we are one of the places where sophisticated audiences, where sophisticated writers and journalists and people who want to write and talk about TV as a sort of progressive art form, people notice what we do. We can fall on our face, but Affair was a show that I was nervous when we first put it out, that it was a low concept, not nearly as high concept as Dexter, a serial killer of other serial killers. But The Affair sucked people in, and it premiered on Sunday night up 60% versus its premiere last year. So it's a show that you put it out there on Showtime and it's good, people will notice.
That was more than 5 words.
Sorry.
Do you want to add another 5 words?
I can't do it in 5 words. I just add, our client base is very sophisticated, and they're very well aware of content that is that's being broadcast, telecast in the United States. Very well aware of content that we have in development. We have a very savvy, very sophisticated client base that knows, how the progression of content works in the United States. So, it's and especially in the digital world we live in. So, people around the world know what we're doing.
Well, listen, I could go on and on, but I think they need the auditorium for the next session. Thank you all. Will you please join me in thanking David and Armando?
Thank you.
Thank you.